Some roads don't want you to leave, and the things that live on them, they're patient. You've heard me talk about urban legends before, but these came to me differently. Not through forums or Reddit threads or late-night phone calls from strangers. These stories found me, and maybe after you hear them, you'll understand why I'm looking over my shoulder more than I used to. Why I take surface streets now, even when the highway would be faster. Before we start, I need you to understand something. Highways are liminal spaces, thresholds between here and there, existing in a kind of perpetual nowhere. You get on, you drive, you get off. It's so mundane we barely think about it. You've done it 1,000 times. The morning commute with your coffee getting cold in the cup holder. The road trip with friends, music blasting, everyone singing off-key. Driving home from work at the end of a long shift, thinking about dinner, about tomorrow, about anything except the road itself. But you're vulnerable out there in ways you don't consider. You're alone in a metal box hurtling through darkness at 70 miles per hour, surrounded by strangers doing the same thing. All of you trusting that the lines painted on asphalt will keep you safe, that the lights will stay on, that what you see in your mirrors is really there. Most of the time, that trust is justified. Most of the time. The 4 stories I'm about to share with you are true. At least, the people who experience them believe they're true. And after what I've learned, after what happened to me while researching the 4th one, I believe them too. That last story, by the way, I almost didn't include it. It's different from the others. It's personal. And it suggests something I'm still trying to wrap my head around. Each story gets worse. I'm warning you now because once you hear all 4, you'll see the pattern. You'll understand what I've come to understand, that highways aren't just roads. They're hunting grounds. And something out there is very, very patient. The first story, it starts like they all do, with someone who thought they were safe. Sarah's shift ended at midnight, but she didn't get home until dawn. And honestly, she's lucky she got home at all. Sarah had been a night shift nurse for 3 years at County General. 3 years of the same routine: clock out at midnight, walk to her car in the staff lot, drive home on Highway 77, exit at Maple Street, 5 minutes to her apartment. She could do it half asleep, and most nights she did. 12-hour shifts in the ICU will drain you in ways most people can't imagine. The exhaustion becomes part of you, settles into your bones, and all you want is your bed and 8 hours of dreamless sleep. That Tuesday started like every other Tuesday. She clocked out at 12:07 a.m., said goodnight to the security guard, walked across the nearly empty parking lot with her keys already in her hand. Her Honda Civic was right where she'd left it, under the flickering lamppost in row C. The engine turned over on the first try. The classic rock station played something forgettable. She pulled out onto the access road and pointed the car toward home. Except tonight, Highway 77 was closed. Orange construction barrels blocked the on-ramp, a detour sign pointing her down Old Mill Road instead. Sarah sighed, too tired to be annoyed. Fine. Old Mill Road connected to Highway 77 eventually. It would add maybe 10 minutes to her drive. She made the turn. That's when she noticed the headlights. First, it was nothing. Just another car behind her on a dark road. People work late. People drive at night. There was nothing unusual about it. A sedan, maybe dark blue or black, hard to tell under the sodium streetlights. It maintained a steady distance, maybe 3 car lengths back. Professional, careful. Sarah turned left onto Highway 77 when Old Mill Road finally intersected it. The car behind her turned left too. Coincidence? People use highways. But something cold touched the base of her spine anyway. That primal instinct that exists below thought. She checked her rearview mirror. The headlights were still there. Still the same distance back. She took her exit at Maple Street. The car took it too. Okay, Sarah said aloud, her voice strange in the silence of her car. Okay, that's... Lots of people probably use this exit. It's fine. You're fine. But she didn't take the left turn toward her apartment. Instead, She went right, toward the commercial district that would be deserted at this hour. The car followed. She took another right, then another. She was going in a circle now, her heart starting to hammer against her ribs. The car stayed with her. Maybe they're lost, she told herself, knuckles white on the steering wheel. Maybe they think I know where I'm going and they're just following because she pressed the accelerator. Her Civic jumped from 40 to 60. The headlights behind her grew brighter as the other car matched her speed exactly. She slowed down to 30. The car slowed down. She turned randomly onto a residential street she'd never been down before. The car turned. Come on. Come on. What do you want? Her voice was shaking now. She thought about calling 911. But what would she say? Someone's driving behind me? That wasn't illegal. That wasn't even weird, except it was God. It absolutely was, because she'd been trying to lose this car for 10 minutes and it anticipated every move like it was reading her mind. Up ahead, she saw salvation. The familiar green and white sign of a 24-hour gas station. The lights were on. There would be people there. Witnesses. Safety. Sarah pulled into the parking lot so fast her tires squealed. She stopped under the brightest light, near the entrance, her hand already reaching for her phone. That's when she noticed the gas station was dark. Not closed dark. Wrong dark. The sign was lit, but the windows were black. The interior lights were off. No cars at the pumps. No attendant visible through the glass. The door had a piece of paper taped to it, but she was too far away to read what it said. Behind her, the other car pulled into the lot. It stopped 10 feet from her rear bumper. The engine kept running. The headlights stayed on, pinning her in their glare. Sarah sat frozen, one hand on her door handle, one hand on her phone. If she got out and ran for the gas station, what would she find? A locked door? No one to help? And the thing in the car behind her would be right there, blocking her escape. If she stayed in her car, she was trapped. If she drove, it would follow. She looked in her rearview mirror, squinting against the high beams, trying to see into the other vehicle. The headlights were too bright. She couldn't make out details. Just the dark shape of a sedan and... Wait, she adjusted her mirror, angling it to see past the glare. The other car's windshield was visible now, illuminated by the gas station's overhead lights. The driver's seat was empty. Sarah's breath stopped. She stared, not believing, not wanting to believe. But there was no mistake. The seat was vacant. No one behind the wheel. No one in the passenger seat. The car was running, headlights on, engine idling, but there was no driver. Even as she watched, the steering wheel turned. By itself. Slowly, deliberately, angling the car's front wheels toward her. No, Sarah whispered. No, no, no. She slammed her foot on the gas. Her Civic shot forward, tires screaming, the smell of burnt rubber flooding through her vents. She didn't look where she was going, didn't care, just drove, one hand on the wheel and one hand fumbling to lock her doors, even though she knew, God, she knew, that wouldn't help against whatever that was. The empty car followed her for 3 miles. She could see it in her mirror, matching her speed. 70, 80, 90, the steering wheel moving on its own, adjusting, keeping pace. She took random turns, blowing through stop signs, running a red light, sobbing now, her whole body shaking. And then, between one heartbeat and the next, it was gone. She checked her mirror. Empty road. She checked again. Nothing. She slowed down, pulled over, sat there hyperventilating in the breakdown lane of some street she didn't recognize. Sarah made it home at 5:47 a.m. She called the police. They took a report. They checked the gas station. It had been closed for renovations for 2 weeks. They found no evidence of another vehicle following her. No traffic cameras had caught anything. The officer who took her statement was kind but skeptical. Exhaustion, he suggested gently. Night shift plays tricks on your mind. She wanted to believe him. She tried to believe him. But 3 weeks later, driving home from work on a different route at a different time, Sarah glanced in her rearview mirror and saw headlights. A dark sedan. Same distance back. She changed lanes. She took an exit she'd never taken before. It followed. Sarah doesn't drive that route anymore. Actually, she doesn't drive much at all now. She moved to an apartment within walking distance of the hospital. And on the nights when she has to drive, she never looks in her rearview mirror more than absolutely necessary. I wish I could tell you what was driving that car. But the truth is, I don't think I want to know. And after what happened in the third story, I'm certain of it. At least Sarah saw what was following her. The man in the second story, he only heard it. Marcus had been driving trucks for 15 years. He'd seen weird things on the road. Who hasn't? But he'd never been hunted before. Marcus was the kind of driver other truckers respected. Pragmatic, professional. He didn't buy into the superstitions that float around truck stops and CB channels. Stories about phantom hitchhikers and ghost trucks and stretches of highway where your radio only picks up stations that don't exist. He'd heard them all, dismissed them all. In 15 years, he'd driven through every state in the continental US, logged over 2 million miles, and the weirdest thing he'd encountered was a family of raccoons that had somehow gotten into a rest stop bathroom. He had a routine, and routines kept you safe. 10 hours driving, mandatory 8-hour break. Repeat. He knew which rest stops had the cleanest facilities, which ones had the best coffee, which ones to avoid because the lot lighting was poor or the pavement was cracked or they just felt wrong in that indefinable way that makes you trust your gut and keep driving. The rest stop at mile marker 247 off I-80 wasn't one of those. He'd stopped there dozens of times. It was clean, well-lit, positioned at the perfect point in his route. Tonight was Thursday, 11:43 p.m., and he was right on schedule. He pulled his rig into a spot away from the main cluster of trucks, the way he always did. Privacy, quiet, better sleep. The parking lot was mostly empty. Maybe 5 or 6 other trucks scattered across the vast expanse of asphalt. Sodium lights cast pools of orange light that turned everything the color of old photographs. In the distance, the highway hummed its constant lullaby, the white noise of civilization, the sound of 1,000 people going somewhere else. Marcus went through his shutdown routine, checked his logs, sent a text to his wife, stopping for the night. Love you. She'd be asleep already. It was past 2 a.m. her time in Maryland, but she'd see it when she woke up. He brushed his teeth using the bottle of water he kept for that purpose, changed into sweatpants and a t-shirt, climbed into his sleeper berth. The cab was his sanctuary, cramped but comfortable, everything within arm's reach. His pillow that smelled like home, the blanket his daughter had given him last Christmas. Photos of his family velcroed to the wall. He set his alarm for 6 a.m., plugged in his phone, and settled in. Outside, the engine ticked as it cooled, metal contracting, releasing the heat of 10 hours on the road. It was a familiar sound, comforting in its predictability. Through the small window of his sleeper berth, he could see a slice of the rest stop. Empty picnic tables, a sidewalk lined with dead grass, the glow of a vending machine. His breathing slowed, the tension in his shoulders eased. Tomorrow he'd be in Des Moines by noon, unload by 2, have the whole evening free. Maybe he'd find a decent restaurant, call home on video chat so he could see his daughter's face. Marcus was almost asleep when the knocking started. 3:17 a.m. He would remember that time for the rest of his life because when the first knock came, he opened his eyes and the numbers on his phone were glowing green in the darkness. 3:17. Just one knock, dull, metallic, against the side of his truck, toward the front. Near the passenger door, maybe. Marcus lay still, listening. Probably another trucker, he thought, though he couldn't imagine why. Maybe someone needed help. Broken down. Dead battery. But wouldn't they knock on the door? Call out? Another knock. Same volume. Same dull metallic sound. But this one was further back. Near the midsection of the trailer. Then another. Further back still. Marcus sat up, suddenly very awake. His heart was beating faster than it should be. The knocks were moving, deliberately, methodically, like someone or something was walking alongside his truck, knocking on each panel as they passed. Knock, knock, knock. It reached the rear of the trailer, paused, then started coming back up the other side. "Hello," Marcus called out, his voice rough. "Someone there?" The knocking stopped. Silence. Just the distant highway, the tick of the cooling engine, his own breathing, too loud in the confined space. Then it started again, faster now. Multiple knocks, moving quickly up the side of the truck, panel after panel, like fingers drumming impatiently, like something searching. Marcus grabbed his phone, hands shaking. He pulled up 911, thumb hovering over the call button. And say what? Someone's knocking on my truck? He'd sound insane. But the knocking was getting louder, more insistent, and now it was at the driver's side door, right outside his sanctuary. Knock, 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 right on the door. Four distinct impacts, evenly spaced, patient. Marcus pulled up his text messages instead, typed quickly to his wife. "Something's outside the truck. If anything happens," but he deleted it. He couldn't send that. She'd panic, call the police, create a whole situation when this was probably just... What rational explanation was there? He opened the trucker forum app he used, found the thread for I-80, and posted, "Anyone at the MM247 rest stop? Something knocking on my truck. Getting weird vibes." The response came within seconds. "Don't open the door." Marcus stared at his phone. Another message popped up from a different user. "How long has it been knocking?" "Maybe 2 minutes," Marcus typed back. "You'll be okay. Don't engage. Don't look outside. Wait for sunrise." A private message appeared from someone with the username RoadGhost91. "You're at 247? Eastbound or westbound?" "Eastbound," Marcus replied. "Jesus, don't engage. It's looking for someone. Probably not you. We don't talk about it, but it happens. Every few months someone posts about it and the thread gets deleted. Just keep your doors locked and wait." Marcus typed, "What is it?" The response took a long time. "We don't talk about it. You'll be fine if you wait until sunrise." The knocking had stopped while he was on his phone. Marcus held his breath, listening. Nothing. Maybe it was over. Maybe whatever it was had moved on to. The knocking erupted all around him. Not methodical anymore. Not patient. Frantic. Rapid. A dozen points of impact at once. Like multiple hands slamming against his truck from all sides. The cab shook. Something hit the roof so hard he heard the metal flex. The door handle rattled. The window right next to his head took an impact that made the glass sing. Marcus pressed himself against the far wall of the sleeper berth. Phone clutched in one hand, the other hand over his mouth to muffle the sound of his terrified breathing. The knocking was everywhere, constant, overlapping, a cacophony of metallic percussion that drowned out everything else. And then it stopped. The silence was worse. Marcus didn't move, couldn't move. Every muscle locked. His entire body rigid with a fear so primal it bypassed thought entirely. He was prey. He was being hunted. And something outside his truck knew exactly where he was. He heard breathing. Slow, wet, wrong. Not the breathing of anything that should exist. Too deep, too ragged, like air being pulled through a throat filled with fluid. It was right outside his window, right there, inches away, separated from him by a pane of glass and a curtain he'd pulled closed and did not, absolutely did not, want to open. Marcus squeezed his eyes shut. A child's logic. If he couldn't see it, it couldn't see him. He kept them closed. He prayed, words he hadn't said since childhood tumbling through his mind. He thought about his wife, his daughter. He wondered if they'd find his truck in the morning with him still inside, if he'd just be another mystery on the highway, Another story truckers would tell and then delete. The breathing continued. Minutes passed. 5, 10. His alarm went off at 6 a.m., and he'd never been so grateful for a sound in his entire life. Dawn was breaking, gray light seeping through the edges of his curtain. The breathing was gone. Marcus waited another 10 minutes before he moved. He pulled back the curtain slowly, terrified of what he'd see. The parking lot was empty except for trucks. Normal, mundane. The vending machines still glowed. A couple of early morning travelers were walking to the restroom building. He unlocked his door with shaking hands, climbed down from the cab, walked around his truck to inspect it. Handprints covered every surface. Dozens of them, hundreds, overlapping, chaotic, pressed into the metal and the trailer like someone had painted them there. But they weren't painted. They were burned in. The paint was discolored, blistered, melted where the prints touched. And the prints themselves were wrong. Too large, fingers too long. The proportions weren't human. Some of them had 6 fingers. Some had 7. Marcus took photos, posted them in the forum with shaking hands. Within an hour, the thread was deleted. He posted again, deleted again. He tried other forums, other platforms. Deleted, deleted, deleted. I reached out to Marcus for this story. He wouldn't talk about it directly, but he sent me coordinates. Said if I wanted to understand, I should go there myself. I haven't yet. I'm not sure I will. The coordinates point to mile marker 247, eastbound rest stop, I-80. And according to the messages I've received since I started researching this, something is still knocking there. The first 2 stories, they had victims who got away. The third one, I'm not so sure anyone really escapes. When Emma and Jordan took exit 393, they were arguing about which restaurant to stop at. They still are. They'd been driving for 6 hours, Phoenix to Denver, one of those trips that feels longer than it is because you're watching the landscape barely change. Desert, more desert, mountains in the distance that never seem to get closer. They were both tired, both irritable in that specific way that happens when you've been in a car too long with someone you love but currently don't like very much. Jordan wanted barbecue. Emma wanted literally anything else. It was a stupid argument, the kind couples have when the real issue is exhaustion and proximity and the fact that you've been breathing recycled air and listening to the same playlist for half a day. There, Jordan said, pointing. Exit coming up. Says food and gas. Emma glanced at her phone, where Google Maps showed their route as a clean blue line with no exits for another 40 miles. I don't see it on the GPS. It's right there, Em. I can see the sign. The GPS doesn't. I don't care what the GPS says. I'm hungry. We're stopping. She sighed. Fine. Whatever. It wasn't worth fighting about. Jordan took the exit, and Emma watched the GPS recalculate with a small surge of vindication. See? The exit existed. The app just hadn't updated yet. That was their last normal moment. The last time their biggest problem was where to eat dinner. The exit ramp curved right, which was normal. What wasn't normal was how long it went. Most exit ramps are a few hundred feet, maybe a quarter mile. This one kept going and going. A gentle curve that seemed to spiral outward. No end in sight. This is weird, Emma said. It's just a long ramp. Jordan, we've been on this ramp for like 2 minutes. So it's a long ramp. Finally, they merged onto a highway. But it was wrong. No buildings, no signs, no other cars. Just asphalt stretching toward the horizon in both directions, with nothing but empty scrubland on either side. The sky was enormous and cloudless. The sun hanging at that late afternoon angle that makes everything look slightly unreal. Where's the food? Emma asked. Should be coming up. They drove. The highway was smooth, well-maintained, the paint on the lines fresh and bright. But there was nothing else. No mile markers, no exit signs, no guardrails or streetlights or any of the infrastructure that highways have. Okay, Jordan said after 5 minutes. This is weird. Let's just turn around at the next exit. They drove for another 10 minutes. No exit came. Jordan, I know. Where's the exit? I don't know, Em. Just let me think. She checked her phone. Still showed them on that blue line, but the line didn't correspond to anything she could see. The GPS thought they were on I-40. This highway looked nothing like I-40. She tried to zoom out to see the bigger picture, but her phone was glitching. The map kept refreshing, resetting, showing them in slightly different locations each time. Then she noticed the mile marker. Mile 27, she read aloud. They drove another 5 minutes. Another mile marker appeared. Mile 27, Emma said, her voice tight. That's not. Jordan leaned forward, squinting. That's not possible. They drove faster. The next marker, mile 27. The next, mile 27. Every single one, identical, as if they were passing the same sign over and over. Turn around, Emma said. There's no exit. I don't care. Turn around. Do a U-turn. Just get us off this road. That's illegal. Jordan, I don't give a shit if it's illegal. Turn the car around. He did. Cranked the wheel hard, the tires squealing as they spun 180 in the middle of the empty highway. Now they were facing the opposite direction, back toward where they'd come from. Jordan accelerated. Emma watched the mile markers pass. Mile 27. Mile 27. Mile 27. We're going the wrong direction, she said, her voice very calm in a way that meant she was close to panic. We turned around, but we're still going the same way. Jordan didn't answer. He was gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles were white. He sped up 60, 70, 80 miles per hour. The mile markers kept coming. Mile 27. Mile 27. Mile 27. Emma grabbed her phone again. No signal glowed at the top of the screen. She tried to open the GPS anyway. Spun, loading endlessly. She tried to call her mom. Nothing. No rings. No connection. Just dead air. Try the radio, she said. Jordan turned it on. Static. He spun the dial through every station, AM, FM, everything. Just static. That empty hiss that sounds like the universe breathing. Their phones died simultaneously at 3:34 p.m. Emma's screen went black first, then Jordan's a second later, both devices just stopping. Even though they'd been fully charged 5 minutes ago. Even though that was impossible. This isn't real, Emma whispered. This isn't happening. But it was. They kept driving because what else could they do? Stop? Get out? Walk? Walk where? In what direction? At least in the car they had the illusion of movement, of progress, even if they were passing the same mile marker over and over and over. Jordan started laughing. Not funny laughter. The kind that means something is breaking. We've been driving for hours, he said. Right? Feels like hours. Emma checked the car's clock. 3:34 p.m. The same time their phones had died. She looked at the sun. It hadn't moved. Still at that same angle, casting the same shadows, as if time had stopped the moment they'd gotten onto this highway. The gas, she said suddenly. Check the gas. Jordan looked at the gauge. 3/4 full. Exactly what it had been when they took the exit. We should be on fumes by now, he said. Emma's phone suddenly buzzed in her lap, making her jump. The screen was lit up again, showing 84% battery, full service. But when she tried to open anything, maps, messages, browser, nothing worked. Just the home screen, functional but useless. Jordan grabbed his phone. Same thing. Working but not working. He opened the camera, started filming through the windshield. I'm documenting this, he muttered. Nobody will believe us, but I'm documenting it. Later, hours later, days later, time had no meaning anymore. Emma would watch that footage and see the mile markers flickering, changing. Mile 27, then mile 73, then mile 27, then mile 393. Then mile 27 again, the numbers shuffling like a deck of cards being cut over and over. "Jordan," Emma said. Her voice sounded strange, far away, like she was speaking through water. "Jordan, there's a car." Up ahead, maybe half a mile, she could see a vehicle. Same color as theirs. Same shape. As they got closer, she could make out more details. Same make. Same model. Same year. "That's..." Jordan's voice cracked. "That's our car." They pulled up behind it, close enough now to see the license plate. Same numbers as theirs. Same registration sticker. Emma could see two people in the front seat. A man and a woman. The man had his hands on the wheel. The woman was looking down at something in her lap. Emma watched herself look up from her phone. Watched her own face turn, her own eyes widen. Her own mouth open in a scream that she could see but not hear. The other Emma was screaming at them, warning them. Her hands pressed against the window, palm prints smearing the glass. And she was screaming and screaming, and Jordan gunned it. Their car lurched forward, swerving around the other vehicle. And Emma caught one last glimpse of her doppelganger's face, twisted in terror, before they shot past. She didn't look back. They drove. They're still driving. Emma sent me these details through an email address that was just numbers and letters. No name, no words, just a string of characters that looked like a password or a coordinate system or a scream translated into alphanumeric code. She said they'd stopped trying to escape, that the road changes sometimes. Different landmarks appear and disappear, different mile markers, different times of day, but it never ends. Sometimes they see themselves ahead on the road, or behind, or passing in the opposite direction. Sometimes they see other cars with other trapped people. Sometimes the road is empty for what feels like days, but it never ends. I tried to respond to Emma's email. It bounced back, but 3 days later I got another one. Just coordinates and a message. "Don't take exit 393. Here's the thing though, exit 393 exists in 4 different states. And I've received emails about all of them. Different people, different cars, same highway, same mile 27, same message. Some of you in the comments have probably driven through these areas. Check your dashcam footage. You might see something you missed. Car that looks like yours. A mile marker that repeats. An exit that your GPS doesn't show. And if you do see exit 393, keep driving. Those 3 stories, they're terrifying. But at least they follow rules we understand. Things follow you, things trap you, things hunt. The last story? It doesn't follow any rules at all. And honestly, I've debated sharing it. I wasn't gonna tell you this one. But then something happened last week that made me realize I don't have a choice anymore. I'd been driving for hours, coming home from interviewing Marcus, or trying to interview him. He wouldn't talk directly, just gave me those coordinates and told me to see for myself. It was late, past midnight, and I was on a stretch of highway I didn't recognize, though my GPS insisted I was on the route home. My head was full of these stories. Sarah's empty car, Marcus's handprints, Emma's endless loop. I was thinking about them, turning them over in my mind, trying to make sense of patterns that refused to make sense. That's when I saw the figure on the roadside, just standing there, thumb out, the universal gesture. I should have kept driving. Every instinct, every rule I've ever learned about highway safety, every horror story I've ever told. All of it screamed at me to keep my foot on the gas and my eyes forward. I stopped anyway. I don't know why. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I felt guilty, having spent hours hearing about people in danger and doing nothing but taking notes. Maybe something made me stop. That's the part that keeps me up at night, not knowing if the choice was mine. The hitchhiker got in. They were ordinary. That's the word that keeps coming back to me. Ordinary in a way that's hard to describe because there's nothing specific to latch onto. Average height, average build, dark jacket, jeans, the kind of person you'd pass on the street and forget immediately, except for their eyes. There was something about their eyes that wasn't quite right. Not wrong exactly, just not quite present, like they were looking at something slightly to the left of reality. "Thanks for stopping," they said. Their voice was pleasant, warm. "Most people don't anymore." "No problem," I said, pulling back onto the highway. "Where are you headed?" "Same place as you." I glanced at them. They were smiling, staring straight ahead through the windshield. "I'm going home," I said. "I don't think." "I know." They settled back in the seat, comfortable. "So what do you do?" "For work. I hesitated. "I tell stories." "What kind?" "Horror stories. True ones, mostly. Or at least, stories people believe are true." The hitchhiker's smile widened. "Me too." Something cold touched the base of my spine. "Yeah. Oh yes, I've been collecting them for a long time. Longer than you'd believe." They turned to look at me finally, really look at me, and their eyes were so dark they looked empty. Like the one about the nurse, Sarah. She was driving home from County General, wasn't she? Wearing those blue scrubs she always wore. The ones with the coffee stain on the left pocket that never quite came out. And something followed her. My hands tightened on the wheel. "How do you?" "And Marcus, the trucker. He posted those photos in the forum, didn't he? But he left out what happened right before the knocking started. He received a text message at 3:15 a.m., 2 minutes before. Just 2 words, "Stay inside." He deleted it, never told anyone, but it was there. My voice was shaking. "I never published that detail." "I know." The hitchhiker's voice was still pleasant, conversational, like we were discussing the weather. "And Emma, poor Emma. Her phone died at exactly 3:34 p.m. You know what's funny about that? Everyone's phone dies at 3:34. Everyone who gets trapped on that highway, always that exact time. You didn't mention that in the story either." My foot eased off the gas. We were slowing down, but I didn't remember deciding to slow down. The highway ahead was empty. No other cars. No lights except my headlights cutting through the dark. "How do you know these things?" I asked. The hitchhiker turned to look at me fully for the first time. Really look at me. And I realized that what I'd mistaken for ordinary was actually the absence of something. They weren't forgettable because they were average. They were forgettable because there was nothing there to remember. Like looking at a space where a person should be. "Because I've been on this highway longer than you've been alive," they said. "We all have Sarah, Marcus, Emma, you, me. We think we're separate, driving our separate routes, telling our separate stories. But we're not. We're all driving the same road. We've always been driving the same road. The highway doesn't have different victims. It has one victim, experiencing itself over and over, telling itself the same stories in different voices. That's not." I couldn't breathe. "That's not possible. Isn't it? Think about it. Really think." Sarah saw an empty car driving itself. Marcus heard something that knew exactly where he was. Emma is trapped in a loop, seeing herself driving forever. And you're telling their stories, but you never met them. Not really. You received emails, messages, coordinates, evidence that could be anything from anyone or from no one at all. The highway ahead was changing. The lines on the road were blurring, multiplying, becoming a tangle of white and yellow that hurt to look at. "The question isn't how I know," the hitchhiker said. "The question is why you're still listening. Why you keep telling these stories. Why you keep driving on highways late at night looking for more. Why you stopped to pick me up when everything in you said not to. Don't you see? You're not researching the highway. You're part of it. You always have been." I blinked. The passenger seat was empty. I was alone in the car. Alone on an empty highway. But there was something in the passenger seat, my digital recorder, the one I use for interviews. It was on, playing. I heard my voice. "Some roads don't want you to leave. And the things that live on them, they're patient." But underneath my voice, I heard others. Dozens of them. Hundreds. all whispering the same words in unison. A choir of voices telling the same story over and over. Some roads don't want you to leave, and the things that live on them, they're patient. We're patient. I'm patient. You're patient. We're all so patient, driving and driving and driving and never leaving, never stopping, just telling the same stories forever. I turned off the recorder. The voices didn't stop. I don't know if I picked up a hitchhiker or if something picked me up. I don't know if I'm telling you these stories or if they're telling themselves through me. I don't know if Sarah and Marcus and Emma are real people or if they're just versions of the same person, the same story, the same warning playing on repeat. What I do know is this: if you've listened this far, you're on the highway too now. Maybe you're driving right now listening to this. Maybe you're alone. Maybe you've just passed mile marker 27 or exit 393. Maybe you heard something knock against your car and told yourself it was just the wind. For stories, for warnings. But really, they're all the same story, aren't they? Sarah followed by something that shouldn't exist. Marcus trapped while something hunted him. Emma caught in a loop she can't escape. And me, us telling stories that might be telling themselves. They're all about the same thing. Being trapped, being followed, losing control. Realizing that the highway you thought you knew, the road you've driven 1,000 times, might not be what you think it is. Highways are liminal spaces, thresholds, places between places where the normal rules get thin. You're moving, but you're not anywhere yet. You're alone, but surrounded by strangers. You're in control, but one wrong move, one moment of inattention, and everything changes. Most of the time, we don't think about it. We just drive. But maybe we should think about it. Maybe we should pay attention to what's following us, what's knocking, what's waiting just off the exit we weren't supposed to take. Drop your own highway stories in the comments. What have you seen? What have you heard? What can't you explain? We're all on this road together, and the more we share, the more we understand. Or at least, that's what I keep telling myself. Maybe understanding isn't the point. Maybe the highway doesn't want to be understood. Maybe it just wants witnesses. There's a fifth story I didn't tell. It's worse than these 4 combined. If this video hits 50,000 views, I'll tell you. But I'm warning you now. Once you hear it, you can't unhear it. And you might not want to drive anymore. You might not want to leave your house. Because the fifth story is not about a highway. It's about what the highway leads to. Until next time, keep your eyes on the road. Check your mirrors. Lock your doors. And if you see someone on the side of the highway asking for a ride, keep driving. They're not trying to get somewhere. They're trying to keep you there. Listen, can you hear it? That low hum, the sound of tires on asphalt, the white noise of motion through darkness, distant lights smearing past, the feeling of moving forward while staying in place. That's the highway, always there, always waiting, never ends. It just loops back on itself, picking up new travelers, new stories, new victims. And somewhere out there, Sarah is still driving, checking her rearview mirror. Marcus is still waiting for sunrise, counting the hours until dawn. Emma is still looking for an exit that doesn't exist, seeing herself over and over in an endless loop. And that hitchhiker? They're standing on the roadside right now, thumb out, waiting for the next person to stop. Maybe it'll be you.